All right. Hello, everybody. I thought I'd shoot this episode a little bit differently than my other episodes. Why? Because it's in bed edition. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, why I choose to film it, but recently I hurt my foot by being an idiot. So I was just like, I've got time to podcast. So I'm starting the podcast again. Welcome to season 2, everybody. Hopefully it only gets better from here. The next episode will not be in the bedroom at all. But I have to keep my foot elevated today. I'm an idiot. Okay. What I thought I'd do today is answering Q&A questions. I figure that's a good way to begin this podcast series. Is Q&A-ing it up. Okay. Kind of going to read through these and then give my answers, and hopefully it'll be a fun video by doing it this way. What would you name a boat if you had one? I'd name my boat Dumbass, because I feel like one today. Yeah, so I named my boat Dumbass. Oh. What will finally break the internet? A hammer. A hammer will break the internet. If somebody gets a hammer, takes it to the internet. I don't know. I don't know where I get these questions. What celebrity would you rate as a perfect 10? Like acting-wise and stuff? I'd have to say Daniel Radcliffe. Big fan. I like Harry Potter a lot. In fact, I look like a fat Ron Weasley. Am I right? Oh no. Okay, I'm trying to read through these, trying to come up with different ones. What is my favorite book? I'm gonna be honest with you, I haven't read that many books, but I have read through Of Mice and Men. That was a solid book, though I'm kind of naming ones that I read through for school purposes. I thought Mice and Men was interesting, the twists and turns of it. But it's pretty dark too. One with a little bit more of an uplifting ending. I really like Holes. That book. That was a solid book. It's a good book. Hello? I'm filming my podcast in here. Well, it's podcast. Woo! Yeah, okay, fine. I see how it is. All right. My favorite book, I'd have to say, currently is one I read through was Holes. I thought that was a solid book. It was about Stanley Yelnats. He gets taken to a kind of a camp for misbehaving kids, accused of crime he didn't do. And from there, It's all about digging holes to teach him to be better. And it doesn't really teach anybody anything. It's just really for, I believe, the camp counselors to get rich. Basically, that's why they're digging the holes, for buried treasure of some sort. And then Stanley Yelnats gets the treasure, and and the bad counselors get arrested. And I also saw the film, and I'm not sure how different the book is than the film, because quite frankly, it's been a while since I've read the book and a while since I've seen the film. So some of the ways I'm telling the story is probably from the movie, and some of it's from the book. But it's a good read. It's a really good read. So, yeah, I'd recommend that. What's my favorite song? Recently, I've been listening to the song Classic. You heard that? By MGMK, I believe is their name. Is it MGMK? No, I don't think that's it. I think that's another band. They're pretty good. Pretty good musicians. What's my favorite film? Well, my favorite film is actually Saga. Film Saga would have to be the Harry Potter series. I got a kick out of that series growing up. I liked the growth of the characters and the story. The story starts out as like a family film, and by the end of it, it feels like an action movie with a bunch of people holding sticks and going, lightning bolt. I don't know. It was a good film. It was a good film, Saga. And I still watch it every year. Yeah, I watch the whole Harry Potter series every year. I think I recently, early 2022, got through a marathon of Harry Potter movies. They were a good watch. They're a good watch. So, very enjoyable. Who would you choose to be marooned on a desert island with? Ooh, that's a tough one. Who would I get at a desert island? That's a tricky one. Mostly because I'm not a big fan of desert islands, but Shakira, that's coming to my mind. I like her singing. I figure if I'm on a desert island, I might as well be singing or something. I don't know. You know, she could do one of her dances. Shakira dances. Do. Shakira. I don't know. That's the first thing that came to my mind. Don't judge me. Okay? Which time period was I visit in history to see an event happen? Well, that's a good question. The one I'd probably pick would be at the end of World War II in New York City. I believe it was, where there was a sailor that kissed that lady. And there's several people claiming to be that sailor who kissed that lady in that very famous photo. And I'd like to see, in reality, who that sailor was. Just out of curiosity, who he actually was. Who did it? Just out of curiosity. I'd also like to visit like the set of a James Dean film. I'm a fan of him. You know, whether it's East of Eden or his very last one, Giant. I would have liked to just kind of visit the set, see what that would have been like back when. Just out of curiosity. Which famous person would you never want to meet? It didn't say infamous, so. Famous. That's a tricky one. Britney Spears, I guess. You know, I think her music's fine, but, you know, I'm not in a race to try to meet her. I guess that's the way I phrase it. There's a lot of people I know that like Britney Spears' music, and they're like, oh, if I got a chance to meet Britney Spears. I'm just like, good for you if you get a chance to meet her. As for me, I'm just like, I'm good. I'm fine with that. I don't need to try to meet her. What is the most random thing you've ever watched all the way through on Netflix? I don't have Netflix, but I hear it's a pretty good service and that there's a lot of different good programs like Stranger Things and Stranger Things. I don't know. I haven't caught a lot of stuff on Netflix. Like, my friend has Netflix, and I've watched some programs with him. I really enjoyed Impractical Jokers on Netflix, because that's what he showed me on there. He also showed me, I think, some Stranger Things on there. Personally, for me, whenever I watch something, it's probably something I picked up at a store, like a DVD or a Blu-ray, or even 4K disc. And I just watch it like that. That's how I watch programs. And then I rewatch it on the disc and stuff like that. I'm not really one for Netflix. Though, honestly, it'd probably be a cheaper method than going out and buying a disc. They get pricey. Anymore. They really do. Though I gotta say that I have been getting into Stranger Things, which is a Netflix series that's very popular. Stranger Things is very enjoyable. Recently, I've heard about season 4 coming out, and I watched people's reactions to season 4, so I can kind of see season 4 that way. But I haven't watched it on Netflix, which, because I don't have Netflix. I'm not really aiming to have Netflix, so. And maybe one day. One day, Netflix. All right. On the next question here. Would you rather lock yourself out of your house or your car? Well, I've had that happen to me in both ways. I've had it where I was locked out of the car, and that wasn't pleasant, but if the car's parked in my home, I'd at least like to know that if I'm locked out in my car, I can go inside the house and find a second set of keys. So I think I could deal with the car a lot better if it was parked at the house and it was locked on me than if it was locked on me anywhere else, literally. So to answer that question, I'd have to say I could deal with probably the car being locked than the house being locked. What's my favorite TV show and why? Ooh, that's a tricky question. I really enjoy TV shows. I have a few favorites. I'm gonna go through like the top 3 I have in my head and then kind of narrow them down. Okay, I like Game of Thrones. I liked that 70s show. Actually, I got 4. And I like Smallville. No, let's do the list again. I didn't count it right. Here we go. Smallville. Game of Thrones. That 70s show. And Friends. Those are the 4 I've got on my list. Now, as far as really kind of evaluating them down, I'd have to say, for me, that can be knocked down a bit are that 70s show and Game of Thrones. Because in my opinion, that 70s show had a good start. Had, some interesting characters and stuff. But then once we get past, I believe it was season 6, the show just starts to drop in quality. And, like, the show is about a bunch of kids, more like teens, who hang out in the basement and smoke and drink and, hang out. And they're all very unique and humorous. But they've Eric Foreman is the lead of the series, and eventually the lead actor in the series, he kind of moves on to other stuff, so you don't really see him that much in pretty much a few seasons. I think it's season 7 and season 8. You hardly see him in. He makes one appearance near the end. And I guess the last episode of season 8 is top notch in my opinion. But that period of time between the end of 6 and the end of the 8th season, the show became a lot harder to watch because it became more about certain characters that were just not that interesting. Like Randy, I swear to gosh, Randy, when he came in, I think he came in around the 8th season. Randy sucked. He was just too perfect of a character. And I think that's the way they wrote it. They wrote him as the guy with no flaws. That's not an interesting character to watch, fundamentally. And I was just very disinterested. So I can take that 70s show off my list because of that. And Game of Thrones, I think it was a strong show and had 8 seasons. But one thing it's failed to do for me is have a great wrap up. The wrap up was okay. And I heard about during the final season there was a lot of issues that people could see on camera, and like a water bottle, a modern day water bottle, or a Starbucks cup, and everybody be like, no, that's not in that time. Why the hell would there be a Starbucks cup during the setting of the story? It just didn't, it got a little bit careless during the final season with some aspects. And who ended up getting the throne was just kind of like, And my main complaint with the final season is because it's more like a fan script than a George R.R. Martin script, because there's a tone to the first to the 7 seasons prior that made the show have its own tone and setting and feeling. Like when you watch it, like, oh my gosh. But the way characters were written in the 8th season were hideous. Like, for example, for me, I was a big fan of Jon Snow. I felt like his character was really going somewhere. Then the 8th season happens, and they just ruin his character. He's just like, I didn't want to be king. That's all he basically says. He has like a handful of lines, and it's just him repeating them over and over again. It was pretty pitiful. And I say that because I really feel like his character could have been written to be so much better. You know? I really feel like the show could have been longer too, because the prior 7 seasons had about 12 episodes, right? Each season about 12 episodes. The last season had 6 episodes. 6. So, in my opinion, they rushed it. They rushed the final season. It's okay, but it could have been great. And the whole winter's coming thing just kind of ends abruptly. You know, just the White Walkers, I believe they're called. They're like zombies. They're killed off so easily in like a fight scene, and it's just like, meh. That's literally how I feel about it. It's like, meh. That's what I can say about the last season. But there's a prequel series now. I think it's HBO. It's doing a prequel series to Game of Thrones, and that'll probably be good. Hopefully, the end of that series ends well. You know, hopefully it runs good and ends well. That's all I can hope for that. And also, that 70s show is getting a kind of a reboot, where it's a 90s show, basically, and it's going to kind of focus on the parents of Eric Foreman, who's the lead, and they were in the original series. And it looks good. It looks interesting, at least to me. And I hope that they have it well written and they have it interesting. That's all I can hope for, because I mean, it sounds interesting to me, that 90s show. I think that 70s show had room for a continuation. It does. So. Okay. Now, I've narrowed it down to Friends and Smallville. It's a little bit tricky there. Now, I really am a big fan of Friends. Some people aren't. Mostly probably because of laugh tracks. And, I mean, the series took place mostly in the 90s, for the most part. And then early 2000s. And some of the stuff they talk about are a little bit outdated. But, you know, there's a lot of good episodes to Friends. And a lot of good characters. I thought the main cast were really good. Some of my favorite ones are Joey. I think he gets some really funny lines, and he's just like a nutball. Who an actor too. You get to see his soap opera within the show, which is funny. Then you got Chandler. I think Chandler's pretty funny too. He gets a lot of funny lines. Probably, in my opinion, some of the most funny lines of the series was probably about him being sarcastic more than anything else. Like his character just naturally just walks into rooms like sarcastic consistently. Then there's I wasn't a big fan of Ross. I mean, Ross is okay of a character, but he's always kind of moping. You know, he's in some ways a main focus in a lot of episodes, but he's not. You know, the way he's written, sometimes I just feel like he's okay. You know, it's kind of how I like feel about Eric Foreman, where it's just like, yeah, they have him in maybe a higher part than some of the rest of the characters who support this lead, but the lead is just kind of whiny and nerdy and doesn't have that many funny lines. So you don't really connect with the lead as much as you do with the characters who support the lead. The way I feel like Ross was kind of the lead, and it's just kind of like, in some episodes, it's just like that. But one thing I like about the Friends show is that it's not always about one character. It's about different characters throughout different episodes. So sometimes Joey will have his own episode, or Chandler will have his own episode. You know, be the more of the main focus. So it was a good show. It's a good show. And they had a lot of laugh tracks. And laugh track comedies, I don't know how to feel about them anymore. Because I've seen other programs that don't rely on the laugh track, and they can genuinely get me laughing. Genuinely. Instead of hearing an audience laugh and going, I guess that was a funny joke in my head, I can just kind of go, oh yeah, that was a funny joke, and chuckle about that. But I think Friends is close to my favorite, but I think I'd have to go with Smallville, because that show is, I like superhero shows. I really enjoy superhero shows. And this is about Superman becoming Superman, basically. And the show does not rely on any laugh track. It just relies on interesting superhero storylines. And the show is very interesting to watch. I had a lot of fun watching it. I like to see how Superman became Superman, basically. And Tom Welling kind of fits the bill of Superman, in my opinion. I've seen more recent interpretations of Superman. They've done some new DC movies with new Superman, and I'm just like, he's okay. And a new TV show with Superman character, and I think what I've seen is probably okay. But to me, Superman and Tom Welling, top notch, top tier for me. Like, that's what I think of when I think of Superman. But yeah. Okay, I'm trying to read like another question that I can pick to answer. What is the most useless talent that I have? I think of a good one. I can fart on command. Consistently. You know? It's pretty useless, and it stinks. So. But it's an ability, I guess. Kind of. Probably not. Probably not a great one. Okay, if you had to change your name, what would your new name be? And why would you choose that name? Ooh, that's a good question. That is a good question. I think I'd name myself James Bond. And then middle name 007. Why? I think James Bond was a cool name. Just fundamentally cool name. I'm still trying to get into the movies. The James Bond movies. I've gotten past, I think, the Sean Connery era. But I've still got to catch up to the Daniel Craig era. And watching the 007 movies.